Hello, this is Extra Healthy-ish, the big sister podcast to Healthy-ish. Both podcasts are from Body+Soul, and I am your host, Felicity Harley. Oh, we all know how good being in nature can make us feel. In fact, I have this favourite mantra. You've probably heard me say it on this podcast before. The healing power of nature, the sounds of the forest, the scents of the trees, the sunlight playing through the leaves, the fresh, clean air. These things give us a wondrous sense of well-being. But what exactly is this feeling that is so hard to capture in words? Well, to some, it's known as forest bathing. And my guest today is going to tell us all about it and how it can help reduce stress in your working life. Monique Ross is a journalist and co-author of a new book called This Working Life. And at the end of 2020, she branched out, sorry, I had to put a pun in there, and became a certified nature and forest therapy guide. We're going to take a deep dive into forest bathing, and she's going to share all her wisdom and tricks on how to bring it into your urban life. Monique, thank you so much for coming on Extra Healthy-ish all the way from far north Queensland. Now, one question I ask everyone who comes on this podcast, how do you stay extra healthy-ish in your life?
So at the moment, I'm practicing something called bodyfulness. Have you heard of this?
No, fill us in.
Yeah, so I think of this as a more embodied version of mindfulness. So if mindfulness is about being aware of your thoughts and being in the moment, then bodyfulness is about being aware of your physical body and how you're moving through the world. So I have anxiety and I spend a lot of time in my head. So sometimes it almost seems like I forget that I have a body. So being able to kind of drop back in a really intentional way has been really special for me. So bodyfulness for me is about listening more to what my body needs. So do I need more rest or more movement, and making that rest or movement really mindful. And just trying to nourish my body and build more kindness into my relationship with my body, and really just experience the world as much through my body as I do through my head.
Gee, I love that. It's almost like a new form of self-awareness, isn't it? It's okay, let's get out of your mind and let's think about your full body.
Yes. And it ties in really well with my work in forest bathing, actually, which is all about connecting with the world through your senses.
Okay, let's talk about that. That's why you're here. What is forest bathing exactly?
So it's the number one question. And look, sometimes I think it's easier for me to start with what it's not.
Okay,
right?
go for it.
Number one, it's not actual literal bathing. So we're not stripping off, we're not going swimming. There's no nudity, which is a bit of a disappointment for some people. It's not a hike. We're not trying to get from A to B or really walking with any set destination in mind. So really, forest bathing is about slowing down and just immersing yourself in nature in a sensory way and in a really intentional way. So it's bathing in the atmosphere of nature, kind of like how when you're sunbathing, you're bathing in the rays of the sun.
Well, hopefully not for too long.
Not for too long, though, and definitely with your full sun protection, especially if you're as pale as me. So the way that we do this bathing in forest bathing is through our senses. So we would go on a very slow wander and just gently shift our attention from our mind into the body and into the senses. So we wake up our sense of smell, our sight, our taste, our hearing and touch, and we use those senses to explore and engage. And
normally, can you just talk us through a bit about what happens when you do it? Do we go with the guide, and is that, or actually let's talk about later a bit how you can incorporate it into your day, but what actually happens in a forest bathing session?
Yeah, so I take guided sessions, and they would normally start with me just explaining what it is, because most people that sign up don't really know what they're in for, which I often think is quite courageous. And then we do like a little meditation just to kind of slow down, because that's a real challenge for some people. We lead very, very busy lives, and just that act of slowing down can be quite hard. And I take you through a series of prompts to help you, tap into your hearing and your touch and all of those senses. And then we do a set of what we call invitations. So I'm listening to the land and looking at what the land is offering and using those as inspiration for ways that we might explore and engage as a unit or individually. So it might just be an invitation to explore with the sense of touch, or, you know, listen to the song of the birds. Or it might be something very open, like go out and find a treasure that's just for you. All depends on the day.
Sounds wonderful. So what are the benefits for our health and well-being, and in particular, I suppose, our work life, because that's obviously why you've brought it into your book?
Yes, so I'm really interested in the crossover between work and forest bathing. It's absolutely fascinating. And I think, you know, part of it is a more holistic approach, because when we are better, we work better. I think that those two things kind of can't be separated. So we all know innately, I think, that being in nature is good for us. It makes us feel good. And there's a lot of research now that supports that. You know, there are these incredible physical, mental, and emotional health benefits of forest bathing. So it's things like lowering of blood pressure and heart rate. It can help combat anxiety and depression. It enhances our parasympathetic nervous system. So that's the good one, the rest and digest one that we love. In a work setting, it can help us focus. It can stimulate our creative thinking, boost up our problem-solving skills, and foster a real sense of connection to our colleagues and our teammates. It's a very, very simple but very powerful practice. I've seen it be incredibly profound and healing for some people. And also it's a lot of fun. You know, sometimes that inner child just really comes out to play, and you find yourself doing things that you haven't done, you know, like splashing in the mud or rolling in the grass. Like, it really does just bring out a side to us that I think a lot of us have lost contact with.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, in the book, you write about two different concepts to understand the power of nature and its impact on our brains. And I actually found these really interesting. Can you talk us through, well, maybe attention restoration theory is the first one, and stress reduction theory? How do these work?
Yeah, so I love a good theory.
Me too.
And attention restoration theory, I find it so interesting. So this was proposed by a research couple called Rachel and Stephen Kaplan. And the basic theory is that our ability to focus or concentrate on something at work is like a muscle. So after a while, it gets tired and it needs a break. And the theory suggests that time spent in nature, or just looking at pictures of nature or watching little videos, actually helps restore our focus to its full capacity. So one of the things that the Kaplans talk about is the need for some form of soft fascination in this process. So we actually need to be kind of gently distracted and engage different parts of the brain to allow the space and the room for the relaxation and restoration to happen. And, you know, soft fascination, nature, they're a beautiful couple. So listening to the birds, you know, looking up at the clouds, watching the ocean, smelling a flower, walking bare feet on the grass, these are all forms of soft fascination. And that's a really critical step in helping restore our focus.
We'll be back after this short break with more from Monique. And what about the stress reduction theory? I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory in some ways, isn't it?
It is. And it makes a lot of sense, I think. So this one comes from Roger Ulrich, and he says that natural environments promote our recovery from stress, while urban or city environments hinder the same process. So we de-stress a lot faster when we're outside, and that just makes so much sense. There's so many studies to back this up, but I don't think we really need them. I think we know, you know, we evolved in forest environments for thousands of years, and I think, you know, we're hardwired to connect with nature. It's in our DNA.
Maybe that's why so many people fled the cities during the pandemic. Get me out of this urban jungle.
Yes. Give me some green.
For many of us who still are in the cities, how can we incorporate, I suppose, these theories, you know, into our day? A lot of us are going back into the office now at least a few days a week. How can we take a break and do perhaps some sort of mini forest bathing session in the park, or incorporate some of, you know, what's in those theories into our day to help relieve stress, help with attention, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I think the number one thing you can do is just go outside. Just actually take a break where you're not looking at a screen. And just breathe some fresh air, let the sun be on your face, again, with like a little bit of sun protection. There's a beautiful little invitation that I offer called Pleasures of Presence, which is really easy to do anywhere. You just start by closing your eyes and just take a few deep breaths just to kind of center yourself. And then if you're comfortable, you could keep your eyes closed for the rest of it. And then just try and focus on one sense at a time and be really curious about that sense. So you might start by tuning into your ears. What can you hear, and what directions are the sounds coming from, and what sounds the furthest away, and what's the closest to you. And if there's a sound that you really like, just linger on that for a little bit and allow yourself to enjoy it. And then you might move on to your sense of smell. So what can you smell? Are there different smells coming from different directions? And kind of go through all of your senses like that, and end with your eyes. So if you've had your eyes closed the whole time, I recommend opening them really, really slowly at the end, like you're opening them for the very first time, and just noticing. Often I find it's like you've put glasses on, or you're seeing it in high definition for the first time, and you really notice things that have always been there, but you didn't know they were there until now. I think that's a beautiful thing to do. The other one I love is to just close my eyes and gently turn really slowly and carefully my body in a circle, and just kind of feel for the direction that feels right to you. So there'll be a direction that you're like, oh, this is the way I want to face. And then open your eyes, notice the first thing that you notice, whatever you're drawn to, and then walk out. Yeah, go and explore that. Go and check it out. It might be a tree in the distance, a flower, whatever it is. And then when you get there, have a bit of a look at that, and then do it again. So then close your eyes, turn in a circle again. It's an incredible way to explore a park that you think you know really well.
Oh, I like that. Oh, might go and give that a go. It's this whole area of research is just fascinating. There's obviously more research coming out in this space. How do you think it will change how we work in the future, or our workspaces?
I think it's going to change quite quickly as a result of the pandemic, which is only a good thing. So I do a lot of work with corporate clients as well, helping them bring, these philosophies of forest bathing and these experience into the office and into their workshops and team building days. And I think the shift that I've really noticed is that this, support of employee wellbeing feels very genuine now. I think in the past it's felt like, we're ticking the box, we're doing our yoga classes at lunchtime. It actually feels like they get it now a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'd expect to be seeing more biophilic design. So, more green spaces at work, more plants in the offices, but also more natural light, more windows, more fresh air, walking meetings, that kind of thing. But also this, greater and very, very genuine commitment, I think, to employee health and wellbeing, and actually letting people prioritize a break or prioritize a little bit of time and space outside, as part of their work experience.
Hasn't the pandemic been wonderful for that, though, in many ways? I mean, it's shifted it, and it can only get better from here. Just lastly, quickly, how did you get into this whole space? I mean, you're a journalist, from a journalist to forest bathing. What intrigued you?
It's a bit of a switch.
Exactly. I like it.
I love it too. So I was in the media for a long time, and I really loved it for a long time. But I just found at the end of 2020, I was at a point where I was just getting through the week, trying to get to the weekend, and it really felt more like surviving than living. And even though I'd loved it, it wasn't me anymore. It wasn't kind of lighting me up. And I decided to change my career, and had a gut feeling or a gut knowing that I wanted to be outside more, because every chance I got, I was going outside. That was my thing. So I was exploring all these different options, and I stumbled on forest bathing in a book, and I thought, oh, this is it. And I probably signed up for my certification within 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Because of COVID, they'd moved it online, so I was actually able to do it from home instead of having to go and kind of immerse myself in a course in America. It's been such an incredible shift. And I think it sounds like quite a whiplash, when I say it out loud, but it was such a long time in the making and just slowly bubbling away. I just needed to find what it was that I wanted to go
But
and
you
do.
finally made the decision to leap. You did it while still writing.
I did it, yeah. It's actually been interesting. When I left, I thought, I'm never going to do that again. I'm done with that part. But now that I've had a little bit of space from it and it's not the whole, so it's kind of part of a portfolio career for me, I actually have rediscovered the bits of it that I loved. And it's not all bad. It was never all bad. I just needed to have a little bit of space and come at it from a different angle.
Yeah, I like that. And how do you incorporate into your daily life? Like what does forest bathing look like in your, say, week or days or month?
Yeah, in my days, I actually do something every day called a sit spot, which is really accessible, and I really encourage you to try it. So basically, you just pick a place, probably somewhere close to home, so it's not too hard to go to, so there's not too many hurdles in the way. Just pick a spot and just go and sit there for a while and do nothing. Just let yourself become part of the scenery for 20 minutes, half an hour, and just see what you notice. This is really about being and not doing. And it's really surprising how difficult it is and also how rewarding it is. So I tend to return to the same spot again and again and again. And after a while, you start to feel like you're being welcomed there. It's going to sound woo-woo, but you start to feel like that place recognizes you and kind of opens its arms to you. And, the seasons change, and so you start to notice little nuances in the environment, and you start to feel like it's noticing changes in you too, and you build a relationship. And I think that for me is where the real magic of this practice begins, when you start to see yourself reflected in nature and also nature reflected in yourself.
How do you think it has changed you? I mean, you've obviously evolved since getting into this space.
Yes. So I think the biggest thing for me is that I would have said before that I was very present in my life, but I think I was actually up in my head, a lot of the time. People will come on walks with me and say, oh my God, I've never smelt this before. Like, have you put a perfume here? And it's like, no, that smell is always there, but we just don't notice it. Our brains filter out so much of this information that it doesn't think is necessary for us. And those sensory sensations are often filtered out. So I think for me, I'm just so much more present. I've really experienced the world in a very different way. Still get trapped in my head quite a lot.
Yeah.
I'm only human. But I'm just so much more present and really connected and really see myself as part of nature. I think, I do a lot of hiking and I go sea kayaking and do all these kind of expeditions. And for a long time, I think I saw nature as something that I visited, something that was separate for me. I'd go out there and then I'd go home. But now I see it as just something that I'm part of as well.
Monique, I think we all need to give it a go after listening to you. Thank you so much for coming on Extra Healthy-ish.
Thank you so much.
Do you have a spot like that? A spot where you can just sit and be? Not look at your phone, not worry about the world, just sit and be, well, a human being. What a great little tip that is. If you want more from Monique, her book is called This Working Life. If you want more from us, remember Extra Healthy-ish, we publish a new episode for your wonderfully healthy ears every morning, Monday to Thursday. For more, head to bodyandsoul.com.au or follow us on Instagram or Facebook. Thanks again for listening to this chat with Monique. And if you have a moment, we'd be so grateful if you could rate, review and subscribe to this podcast. And until tomorrow, stay extra healthy-ish.